This is the Retirement Mentality. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. If you're returning, thank you very much for coming back. I hope that's because you found value in one of my previous videos. This is a place where we want to change your mentality about retirement. It just doesn't work the way that it used to when your parents retired. You don't work for 40 years and retire and get the gold watch and the pension. Now you need to create passive income. You need to create wealth faster and depend on yourself for your retirement. So we talk about how to do that on this channel, mainly through real estate investing. So if that is a topic that is of interest to you, you are in the right place. Welcome. Today, I want to talk instead about how to get rich and tell you how I went broke, and that way, hopefully you can avoid the same mistake that I made. I made two big mistakes investing in real estate, and I went broke in 2008. There's a lot of people saying that the market is going to crash again. I've been dispelling that. I've been saying that I don't think it's going to crash, but whether it crashes or not, I want to tell you why I went broke and help you not make that mistake. So if you can stay all the way to the end, I will even include an extra tip for new investors on how to get started in investing. The best way that I think you can kind of get started on a shoestring with not a lot of money. It's not true that you can't start investing with zero money. I just don't believe that. It's not possible if you want to be a real investor. You need a little bit of your own money to get started. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, I got to put this in all my videos because you guys haven't been hitting the subscribe button based on how many views I get and how many subscribers I have. So if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you ring the little bell down there, it'll let you know every time I put out a new video. So I'm going to tell you the mistakes that I made, help you avoid them. And then if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you a tip on how to start investing as a new investor. So let's get into it right now. I did a video a little while back called My Real Estate Investing Journey. I'll link to it up here. That's sort of chapter 2 of my real estate investing journey. And chapter 1, well, in chapter 2, that's all my properties that I bought after going broke, and I started that in Florida. And in that video, I kind of walk you through the properties that I bought and how much money they make and how I hit financial freedom with just 5 properties. But before that, I was in Montana, and that's where I went broke when the market crashed in 2008. So let's go back to chapter 1, the real beginning of my real estate investing journey. And the reason I want to make this video too is you have to look at your failures probably more than you look at your successes. You're going to learn probably more from the failures in your life than from your successes. A success, you had an idea and you did it and you implemented it and you won, great. But the failures that we have, I don't think you can move past them until you really look at them and figure out where you went wrong and what the lesson was from the actual failure. Otherwise, you're going to live with regret and you're going to have the coulda, woulda, shouldas. So you really need to look back on your failures and learn the lesson, A, so you don't make them again, but B, so you can turn that into a future success. So that's why I want to go look back and tell you guys how I went broke. If you have been investing in real estate and you started in 2010 or later, you probably think you're an investing genius. You haven't had a lot of pushback. The market's been going like this the whole time. You're just like, oh, I bought a house and they're all making money. They're all appreciating in value. And you haven't seen a market turn down yet. I actually started dabbling in the stock market in March when everything crashed because of the Rona situation. So I bought right down here at the bottom and all my stocks are going up and up and up. And I was like, dude, I'm a stock investing genius. All I do is I buy stocks and they make money and I'm crushing it right now. And I actually caught a Kramer edition one day while I was into the stock thing. And he was like, hey, for all you guys who think you're geniuses and you bought down here in March and all your stocks are making money and you think you're crushing it and this thing is super easy, I got news for you. It's about to get harder. And he was right. And then the market kind of did another little downturn and I started losing money. And I was like, wait, what's going on here? So and the point is when you're investing in a rising market, it's easy to make money, easier. You can still make mistakes and go broke or lose money, but it's a lot easier entry and success rate when things are just going like this. So if we are going to have a turn down in the market now, I want to kind of tell you the pitfalls, because what happened to me could happen to anybody in any market, good or bad. But I'm going to tell you the 2 main mistakes that I made. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Let's go back in time. Remember Wayne's World? That was anyway. We're going to do a little time trip here. We're going to go back to like 1998. I had started a mortgage company out in Montana. I'd been working in the mortgage industry for maybe 3 years. I'd opened up a branch for another company. My boss was going to cut my commission rate And I said, if you do that, I'm going to start my own shop. And he laughed at me and I said, sayonara. And I went out and I started my own mortgage company. So for a long time, it was just me working in there by myself. I'd get up, I'd go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd get off at 5 o'clock. And then I went to a casino and I'd bartend at a casino until 2 a.m. And then I would go home and go to bed, and I'd get up and I'd do it again the next day. That's called the grind. That's what you do when you start a business, when you're an entrepreneur. You grind it out and you do what has to be done to get it, to make it. There's usually no plan B. This is a topic I'm going to get into in a minute here, but that's also a downfall of a lot of entrepreneurs, the no plan B. So that's kind of what we're talking about today also. So I did this for a while. I worked 2 jobs until the mortgage company started to take off and started making money. Then I quit the casino job. And then after a couple of years, I decided it was time to buy my first house. So I bought a duplex in downtown Bozeman, and I started house hacking before there was a term house hacking. I rented the basement apartment out, and then I lived in the top. They paid the majority of my mortgage, and that allowed me to start saving more money to try to buy another house. So my duplex that I bought was, I tried to look it up on the interwebs to figure out exactly how much I paid for it, but the history didn't go back that far. I tried to look up the tax records, and I couldn't go back that far, so I went on to Zillow, which is interesting. It looks exactly like it did when I owned it. They haven't really done anything to it. It just had new furniture, and now it's worth over $500,000 according to Zillow. But anyway, I paid $180,000 for it. I did 0% financing with my creative mortgage skills, and back in the day, there was lots of 100% financing out there. So I bought it with no money of my own, paid 180 grand, and then house hacked it and was able to save money while living in the duplex. After that, I think the next property that I bought a commercial piece of property in Big Sky, and I opened up a second office for my mortgage company, which didn't ever make any money, I don't think. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So my second thing I bought was a commercial piece of property. I think I paid around $150,000 for that, and I had to put 25% down for a commercial loan on that one. And I believe I got a $50,000 line of credit on the business, which I actually used to pay the down payment on the office space. So I didn't use any of my own money again. And then after 2 years, I sold the duplex, and it had gone up over $100,000. I got a check at closing for $101,000. I thought I was king shit of the world. I was at the bank and I was like, oh, excuse me, there's not enough spaces for all the zeros on my check I'm trying to deposit. It was a very big day for me. I never had that much money. So I deposited my $101,000 check, and then I went and I bought a new house, like what was kind of my dream house up in the mountains. And I think I paid around $220,000 for that. And I think I put 5 or 10% down on that house and then financed the rest. And then I started looking for a flip house, because at the time the market was just going like this. Everybody was making money. Everybody was flipping houses. This is when HGTV was coming out with all the house flipping stuff. This was in about 2007. So I bought a $480,000 house up by Bridger Bowl, at a ski resort, and I gutted it, and I had my $100,000 from my closing, plus I had about another $100,000 in savings. So I gutted this almost $500,000 house, and I sank 200 grand into it. And before I got done with the remodel, the market had tanked, the crisis had started, and I got stuck with that house and I couldn't sell it. I think my mortgage payment was over 4 grand on the flip house. And then my mortgage payment, because I did 0% financing on $480,000, it was at 80/20. So the rates weren't good. Non-owner occupied investment program. The rates were horrible, but I just thought I was going to get in and get out. So I had $4,000 a month payment on that, plus my house that I paid $220 for, what's called that, like a $1,500 a month payment, plus my Big Sky office that I owned. I had a mortgage on that, plus a mortgage on the 50 grand I borrowed for the down payment. So let's call that another 1,500. So that's 6 plus 4,800. So let's call that 5 plus 6. That's 11,000. Plus I had an office in Bozeman that I was renting that I had another $1,500 a month payment on. So I had to make over 12 grand a month just to pay my mortgages. That doesn't include power bills and eating food or doing anything fun. So it was tough. And also the mortgage company, because the market crashed, the mortgage company income went to zero. So I had no money. I put all my money into the flip house, and I was making no income, and I had $12,000 of expenses. So this is where I want to get back into the no plan B and the entrepreneurial spirit of never quit, never die, I'll go to the end. And I should have thrown in the towel and probably tried to sell something, because at that time I did have a little bit of equity because the prices had been going up, like I said, until this crash started. So when the crash started, I should have tried to just exit, sell everything for reduced prices and got out with something, but I didn't. I kept refinancing one house to pull out more money to get the equity and then trying to pay the mortgages. And I just thought I could tough it out and survive and keep things going. And I couldn't. And eventually the bank started foreclosure proceedings and I kept trying to get to work, and I started a new business in the office in Big Sky. Put a head shop in there, which I teamed up. Anyway, that's a long story. So it wasn't enough. I couldn't make enough to make 12 grand a month to make all the payments. So the bank came, took all my properties, and I went to zero basically. And the two mistakes that I made are, number one, I didn't have enough equity. I bought everything with 0% financing, or as little financing as I could. I leveraged everything. And the second problem that I made was I had no cash reserves. You got to have reserves for at least 6 months to cover all of your expenses. If you have 12 houses, you got to have enough to cover 12 mortgages, plus the utilities, plus the whatever cost associated with those. So that is the big takeaway. I know it's hard when you're starting out, and I said if you stayed to the end, I would tell you what I thought new investors should do who are trying to start out on a shoestring or a new string, whatever you want to call it. Getting into your first property with 3% down on an FHA loan or whatever you can do, if you don't have a lot of money saved up, that's great. Do that. Get into a duplex like I did, house hack it. You can almost live for free, or you could live for free essentially if you're renting out one side that covers your mortgage, or you can pay very little, a couple $100 maybe, depending on the market that you live in. So when you do that, if you're used to paying $1,000 a month for rent, and then you buy a house and all of a sudden you're paying $0 or $300 a month, well, now you got $700 extra a month you can save. So if you can get lean, get frugal, you got to make sacrifices if you want to do this thing right. You need to drive a crappy car and live in a tiny little shitty house, and you got to learn to be frugal, eat at home, watch some videos on frugality, and just up your savings. So if you're saving an extra $700 a month from the $1,000 you were paying on rent, and now you can get your expenses down another $300 to $300 a month, all of a sudden now you're saving $1,000 a month more than you were already saving. So if you were saving $1,000 a month, now you could be saving $2,000 a month. At the end of a year, you could have $24,000 in the bank, and that's enough. You could put 20% down on a $100,000 house, or 10% down on a $200,000 house, and do it again and replicate what you've done. But now in the second time, try to put 5 or 10% down on that house. And then now you've got 2 houses or 3 houses or 4 houses. If you buy 2 duplexes, you'll have 3 units producing income and one that you're living in. So now maybe you have an extra $1,000 from house number 2. So now you can save $3,000 a month. So then you could put 15 or 20% down on your next house. Obviously, using leverage is the key to do this and getting loans. But just don't get 3 or 5% loans on everything. Try to build your equity as you go. I try to keep at a 50% equity right now. So I have a house that I paid cash for. I have another house that I paid cash for, but then I took a little bit of money out on it. And then I have a couple houses that are high leveraged. So, but over all of my properties, I try to keep my total at about a 50% equity. And it gets easier as you get more properties and you go down the road. In the beginning, you got to start out lean, but just grow that equity as you go, and always keep the reserve account for at least 6 months. If we learned anything from this pandemic, it's that you could lose your job, your business could go out of business, you could be locked into your house with no income. So it's very real now. And the people who haven't seen hard times like I did in 2008 see that this can happen to anybody. So get that reserve account. And I did another video I'll link up here where I talked about using a HELOC on your primary residence for your reserve account. So once you have a primary residence with some equity, you could turn around and get a HELOC on it. It doesn't cost you a couple $100s to get it, and it can just sit there and be available money to you that you could use as an emergency fund, but then you can still put your actual cash out there working for you. So watch that video. If you're struggling with with having a reserve account and you have an equity in your home, you can use a HELOC So that's a great video, and that can get the rest of your money. You don't need to keep $100,000 in a bank account, because that's what I have 7 properties now. So if I had to keep 6 months of mortgages on 7 properties, that's a lot of money just sitting there doing nothing. So now I use that HELOC. I have a $100,000 HELOC on my primary. So that's good advice there. So hopefully, you know, if you're watching this video, you're wanting to get into real estate investing, and learning about the mistakes that people made is just as important as learning how to get into your first property. So as you go down the road, just keep this in the back of your mind, and you can avoid making the mistakes I did. If I wouldn't have gone broke, who knows how far I'd be in this journey now. I was $1.2 million in debt when the bank took all 3 of my properties. They took my primary residence plus my commercial real estate office that I had, plus they took my flip house. So my mistake was I was 1.2 million in debt, but when the market tanked, my properties were only worth 800,000 or whatever the case may be. So I couldn't sell them, I couldn't get out of them, I was stuck. And if I would have had enough cash reserves, I could have rode through it and I would have been just fine. Like I said, the duplex that I paid $180,000 for, Zillow says it's worth over 500. My house in the canyon it's probably worth $600,000-700,000 now. And then my office, I don't even know, I didn't even look it up. But that's the lesson for today. Keep your equity percentages at lower than you think you can. Like, try to get equity in your properties as early in the game as you can, and keep cash reserves, and you won't go broke like me. I obviously have turned it around now. I guess, like I said, I have 7 properties now. I'm living on a Caribbean island. That's not the best view out there, but I'll do another video here in a minute that I'm going to be posting that'll show you a little bit more where I live if you're interested in that. Leave me a comment in the comments if you've gone broke, or if you think this is good advice, or if you have any other tips for people to avoid going broke. And we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you didn't subscribe yet. Ring that little bell down there. And if you like the video, give a big old smash on that like button. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.